Good morning, everyone. Here we are again with another cooking show with Gigi. So today I'm getting some things ready for Thanksgiving. We're having that at my brother's. I think I've mentioned that on a few of my other shows. And today I'm making my homemade crescent rolls. Everyone in my family says you have to have the crescent rolls for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I kind of agree. I do love them. They're delicious. So the first thing that I'm gonna do, and I wanna show you my recipe. I've had this for so many years. It was my sister-in-law that gave it to me. She makes these too. But somehow I'm the one that gets to make them for the get-togethers. And I do make a double batch because we have a large family and they all wanna eat at least 2 rolls. So I'll be making 64 rolls. So I've doubled the batch. So you need to make everything in the order that it is listed on the recipe card. So the first thing I'm gonna add is going to be the yeast. I'm gonna put it in, and normally I use this packaged yeast. You can buy it like in a jar, but I have just always done this. It seems to be the perfect amount. So I'm gonna put the yeast, both of them, in my bowl. That's the first thing you have to do. Put that in your bowl. I'm gonna move this down so you can see what all I'm doing down here. All right, that was number 1. Now I need package number 2 because I'm doubling it. So there's my yeast. Now then, you need to do it, like I said, in this order. Now 1 teaspoon of salt. So that means I'm gonna put in 2 teaspoons of salt. All right, find my 1 teaspoon here. I know I have it. There it is. It's the yellow one. So 1 teaspoon of salt. I have all my things ready, and as we go along, I'll tell you what all it has in it. So 1 and 2 teaspoons of salt. 1 tablespoon of sugar, so 2 tablespoons of sugar since I'm doubling it. My sugar's right over here. So 2 level, 1, 2 tablespoons of sugar. We already did the salt. Okay, now I want 1 cup of warm water, so I have 2 cups of warm water here. That sugar and salt and yeast and warm water will make the yeast bloom so that everything will rise. You don't want to get your water hot. You just want it warm. So I'm gonna stir that in there a little bit. Not stirring it too much, just to kind of get things incorporated together in that bowl. It's gonna be a really windy day, 50-mile-an-hour winds, pretty cold. It's gonna feel like it's in the 20s because of that. I'm headed to Carmel, and I'm a little worried about being on the roads with all that wind, but I'm sure it'll be okay. I'll say an extra prayer. All right, so we have that in there, and we're gonna let that set for just a minute. I will tell you the other ingredients that we're going to need. So 3 eggs that are well beaten. So I do have 6 eggs here, and I'm gonna put them in a bowl, and I'm gonna beat those up really well. I have my big red bowl here. And you need a 1/2 cup of shortening. So 1 cup of shortening that is melted. You want it to be melted, but don't let it get too hot. You don't want to change the temperature of your rolls. Okay, that's a cup of shortening that's melted, and I use Crisco always. A 1/2 cup of sugar. So I'm going to need, and again, we're putting all this in this order. Since I need a 1/2 cup of sugar, we're gonna go with a cup to double it. So I'll get that ready. So I went to the church and played some pickleball last night, and there was 4 of us there, so we played the whole time pretty much. We would take little breaks in between, and everyone was playing so well. We were pretty even. The score was just about always, tied up. And we played about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and it was just perfect. We had a great time. My church ladies. I sure appreciate getting to play with them. Okay, so that I have my sugar measured, and I'm gonna need 5 cups of sifted flour. So we'll do that when it comes time. So I've been just kind of letting this sit in here and bloom up a little bit in my bowl. It says to let it set for a little while. All right, so I have my eggs in my bowl and my whisk. I'm beating them really well. Get them ready to go into my mixture for my rolls. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Set that down over there. All right, so the warm water, everything's been in there. So now the 3 eggs, so that's 6 eggs, gonna go in to my bowl. Okay, push that out of the way. Well beaten eggs, 6 of them. Just gonna mix that in a little bit. Try to be gentle with everything. Don't want to mess up the rising ability. Okay, now then 1/2 cup, which means 1 cup of the melted shortening. It's not too hot, so I think we're okay to put that in there. There's our shortening that we melted. Mixing that in really good. Now we're gonna come in with 1/2 cup of sugar. Doubled the recipe, 1 cup. You know, this is the recipe that I use to make my cinnamon rolls. I know there's a lot of cinnamon roll recipes out there, but this works really well also for my cinnamon rolls. You just roll them out in a different way. Someday I'll show you that. And I do like to use the cream cheese frosting on top of the cinnamon rolls. Okay, so there is our sugar. So now the hardest part is the 5 cups, doubling it makes it 10, of flour sifted. So that is what we're gonna go in with next. I have my sifter here. And I always like to take my spoon and my measuring cup and fill it this way. You don't want to kind of shake it in. You don't want to get it packed in. You don't want to get too much flour. And if you dip it down in there, you might get more flour than what you meant to. So I just do it this way and then I level it off. So that's my first cup. And so I'm going to go in here. The biggest goal is to remember where you are in measuring your cups. So this is cup number 1. This is my mom's sifter. It looks like it's seen a better day. It's probably because it has, and it has made a lot of things. So that's cup number 1. So we're just sifting it in. I'm gonna keep doing this until I get all of my flour in. I'll stop once in a while and let you see how it's looking. Okay, so I am still sifting. I'm on cup number 6. I'm gonna start stirring it in pretty soon and then I'll keep adding the flour. Sometimes I find that maybe I think I should stop a little early and maybe keep less, maybe 1/2 cup out. It just depends on how the dough is looking. So that's number 6. Okay, so I'm gonna sort of stir this up a little bit and see how it's looking here. It's got all that oil and everything in there. This was number 6. I kind of have to keep reminding myself, you know, as you get older. And I guess anybody could forget when you've got 10 cups of flour going in. So I'm just mixing it up. It's still pretty loose. So we definitely know we need more, and I knew that I would, but I like to get it started mixing. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna sift in some more flour. I have 4 cups left. Okay, so I do have 9 cups of flour sifted in. So let's just see how that's looking as we stir it up. I will likely have to add some more, but I have had it at times seem like it was a little dry because it had too much flour. So I like to back off just at the very end. Don't put it all in. Make sure it looks about the right consistency. And I've made these for so long, I pretty much know what it should look like. You just have to keep on stirring your flour and, you know, do it gently. You don't want to use your mixer per se. I like to do it by hand. Getting all my flour kind of rubbed into my dough here. Okay. I think that I could use at least a half a cup more. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll get it ready. So I've added about a half a cup more of that 10th cup of flour. And I'm just trying to get it all worked in to the wet dough. You can see where it's still pretty wet, so we're probably gonna add a little more. And at this point, I think what I'd like to do is maybe start using my hands to kind of help get that all in there the way you want it, because you can feel it, you know what the consistency is. So I'm gonna give that a try so I can just kind of push it around in there. Keep flour on my hands. See, it feels pretty wet yet. So I'm probably gonna keep adding some of that flour that's left over from the 10th cup. All right, here we go. I don't want it to be too wet because, you know, you want your, you know, when it rises up, it could be too sloppy looking and not really evident that it's a crescent roll. So I'm just kind of getting all that flour sort of worked in there. Some people might not like getting all this on their hands, but when you're cooking, you just have to do it. It helps. At least that's how I find it to be. Okay, now here are some things for you to know that this is gonna go in my refrigerator overnight. You want at least 8 hours for it to rise in your refrigerator where it's cold. I'm gonna just add the rest of that. Actually, I did use all 10 cups, so I think we're good. It's gonna be a good deal. So when it rises in the morning, I'm gonna get up early because we're having, I think, our lunch at 1 o'clock. And I want to get these out and get them rolled out and made into crescent rolls. And I'm going to definitely show you how to do that tomorrow morning when I get up. I'll continue my video. And then they're going to rise another, say, 3.5 to 4 hours. You can kind of tell. It's nice to put it in a warm place because, you know, it rises better. Sometimes what I'll do is turn my stove on and get it hot for a minute, and then put them on top of the stove, and then turn the stove off over the oven. And now it's a warm place for them to sit to rise. I do cover them with a towel, all the rolls. And like I said, I'm gonna show you that tomorrow. So I'm gonna work on this just a little bit more and I'll be right back. Okay, so I pretty much feel like my dough's ready and I've got it all kind of molded into like a round ball. It's kind of flat. And I'm gonna take some oil, just regular vegetable oil, and I'm gonna pour that over the top of my dough because, you know, you don't want your dough cracking as it rises. You want it to be kind of moist and oily. I'm gonna take this brush. Let's see if I can't get it all over the top really good. Cover it. A little bit more oil. Oops, take the lid off. A little more oil, just about the right amount in this bottle for me to use. So there's that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna loosen it up around the edges and I'm gonna like move it around so that underneath it gets the oil also. So a little bit of extra oil on the side here, which will go down underneath my dough. So I'm gonna raise it up like that and let that oil get down underneath. I'm going to bring it up and do this so that we're getting oil all over our dough. Still trying to keep it in kind of a round, because when I go to make my rolls, I will cut this into 4 sections. Each section will make, let's see, I think it's 12 or so rolls. I'll let you know for sure. All right, so here's the dough. It's ready to go in the refrigerator. And tomorrow morning, we'll pull it out, and we're gonna make some crescent rolls. Okay, I hope everyone has a wonderful, safe day, and I'll see you in the morning with these rolls. Good morning. This is a continuation of Cooking with Gigi, and I just finished mixing up the chocolate chip cookies. They're in the refrigerator. Now I'm going to make my crescent rolls that I started yesterday morning. They had to rise in the refrigerator overnight. I did just finish getting my cookie sheet, the first one, ready for the rolls, and I did that crinkled paper thing where I balled my paper up on parchment paper because it never wants to lay flat. And I have that ready, and I have a couple more I'll need to get ready as the time goes on here. I'm gonna set that aside. I'm excited to open the bowl to see how my dough is doing. So we're gonna have these today, and I'm making a double batch because I have learned, because I almost made the mistake of not making my crescent rolls, and we have to have them. And my Brenda, my sister-in-law, she taught me these initially. She gave me the recipe. It has taken me years to perfect it. It's one of those things where you have to use your yeast and, to have the right amount of flour and, all these different things. And the way you cut them out makes a big difference too. So I kept watching Brenda's when she'd make them, and they'd always look perfect. I mean, they were all the exact same size, and I thought, how did she do that? So I talked to her a little bit about it. My oven is on. Not that I'm ready to bake these rolls. I've been getting my oven warm, so when I put my rolls on top of the oven, they can rise easier. It takes 3 to 4 hours. If your oven is warm, it'll probably be more like 3. Okay, and it is 7:30 in the morning, and I need to be somewhere at 1 o'clock today to have my Thanksgiving dinner. I'm gonna show you. I just took the lid off, and look, wow. I have had it happen where this dough will not rise in the refrigerator. It's a double batch, and it has risen beautifully. As you remember, I did put a little oil on top to keep it from being too dry, and it is perfect. It is absolutely perfect. Now, I'm gonna take this nice sharp Cutco knife, and I'm gonna, normally if I made one batch, this would be a smaller amount, and I would cut it in 4s for this smaller amount. Now, I'm going to take this and cut it in half. Try to eyeball it and get it right down so that it's right in the half mark. Then I'm going to cut each of the halves into 4s because that would be like one batch of my crescent roll dough. And so I'm going to work on getting that cut right through there. And then I'm going to just leave it in the bowl, and I'm going to eyeball it again, and I'm going to try to go halfway. It's not going to be perfect. Things are never perfect when it comes to baking, I'm afraid. We try. So there's half of what one dough recipe would be. And then I'm going to make it into another half, which gives us a 1/4 of the dough. And I'll go ahead and cut it all so that I don't forget, so that it's all in the right amount, sections. So I have that done on one side. So I'm gonna know when it's time to do the other to get that cut up a little bit. I do think I'll get a big spoon to help me pry that out of there a little bit. All right, so you're gonna need a clean surface. And I have scrubbed down my surface, and I made sure it was nice and sanitized and clean. So I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna raise it up out of there and hope to get it so that it's just cut perfectly. If it's not, we'll cut it some more. If you have kitchen scissors, that can help with this. I had some, and they were my Cutco ones, and I've sort of lost them. I think I took them outside for something, and who knows, I might have pitched them accidentally. All right, so I'm gonna set that aside. And I have my flour. I need a little side of flour. If that's not enough, I can get more. I'm gonna take just a minute. First, I'm gonna sprinkle this on my counter so that I have quite a bit of flour. I don't want it to stick to the counter. You know, years ago, I had this perfect Tupperware thing that you put out, and it kind of had round circles so it would tell you how big to make your pie doughs and things like that. Well, I wore it out and it's gone, and I've never come across anything like it. So I always just scrub my countertop real good and flour it really well. And I've kind of learned now about how big you want to make your circle. So you're kind of making a disc here. You're gonna take your hands and you're gonna push down on the disc, and you're gonna kind of get it so that it's ready to be rolled out with a rolling pin. And I'm gonna take just a minute and put this in the microwave. I'm gonna need this butter so that I can put butter on top of my crescent rolls. Okay, so as you can see, my butter is melted, and I do have my brush that I can use. I'm gonna put butter on the round disc once I get it rolled out, because these are called Butterhorn rolls. So, okay, my dough, it appears to be the perfect elasticity. That's how you say that, I think. And I'm gonna go ahead and put some flour on here. Flour it up pretty good. You can get a little too much, but you'll know, I think, when you're doing it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start rolling this in a way that I'm spreading it in a circle as much as I can. And so you just kind of want to move around how you're doing it. And keeping in mind, you know, I used to do it wrong, and I would roll it and get it really thin and try to get it, I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. But I want it to be so that my crescent rolls are as uniform as I can get them, and not really needing them to be big, long crescent rolls. I like more compact ones. Then they rise up and they're like fluffy and thick, and they look about the same. So you're trying to get a nice circle without it being too big. I would say smaller than a pie crust. So I could measure this and let you know, and I might work on that, but I can kind of eyeball it and see. It's a little bit bigger than this bowl, which is a kind of a flat soup bowl. So we have that kind of where I think I want it. And I know better once I start actually cutting them and getting them on my cookie sheet. Okay, so we've got that kind of ready, and I'm gonna put some butter, the butter that's melted. Try to get it over close so you're not dripping butter all over your counter. And you don't want too much butter. It's just a nice thin layer of it, because if you put too much on, then when you cut it, the butter's gonna drip down in and get in on your counter, and you're gonna have kind of a flour butter mess. Get it over to the edge as much as you can. You know, my brother, he doesn't care for a lot of butter on his rolls, so I'm kind of taking it easy because everybody can add their own butter. So that's that. Okay, now I like to use a pizza cutter to cut my rolls, and I'm gonna eyeball it a little bit. Put that back down where you can see a little bit better. And I'm just gonna go, and I'm gonna make it go straight across. I'm getting pie-shaped rolls is what I'm trying to do. It's gonna be like pie-shaped. Trying to get it just right. Now your rolls aren't gonna be perfectly the same. Try your best, try as you might. There's gonna be a little bit of a difference. I wish I had something that I could like lay down on there and it would give me the perfect, and I'm sure that's out there. I should look that up. Now I'm taking the edge of my roll from the big end, and I'm just gonna start rolling it up until I get it to the pointed area, and I'm gonna let it sit like that. Now, I used to worry about taking it right over to my pan, but now I just usually roll them all up. Look, it's a little bit thicker, so that's gonna make a nice fluffy roll. You can see I'm just rolling that up. I'm pretty excited because of how nicely this dough did rise. It's very soft. It's not gonna be dry, I don't believe. I've made enough of these that I kind of have an idea. So you see, they're all about the same size. I'm trying to get them that way. One thing about me cooking is I'm not really a perfectionist, but I like to improve on anything that I do. I want to get better at it. And I did struggle with these in the beginning, so I'm just happy to say that I'm kind of getting there with it. Okay, so we're gonna get this rolled up. So this is my first 8 rolls. I'm gonna get 8 rolls per section. I have actually made cinnamon rolls out of this recipe, and I would just cut it differently. And I'm sure you know how that I'm talking about if you do any kind of baking. And there are lots of good recipes out there for cinnamon rolls. See how I kind of push my dough around to get it the way I want it to be. Okay, now this one's a little bit longer. I'm gonna squinch it up a little so it won't be. I'm gonna get my cookie sheet with my flattened out parchment paper. And I'll try to lay this on top here so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, move that over there to the, all right, now I'm taking, this will take 3 rows of rolls. And so I'm going to go ahead and start in the middle. And when you're putting it on there, you're gonna give it a little curve, like a crescent shape. So when you pick them up, you're gonna want the fat side to, actually it can go either way. I kind of did that the opposite of what I would normally do. So I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna make it go this way. Make sure that little piece right there is kind of underneath and it's tucked in. And you wanna get these as kind of close together, but not touching to give you more room, and because they are gonna rise. And so you want them to puff up and have a little bit of room and not be sticking completely to each other. See how that's looking? See how I've got those on there? That's gonna be the middle. And I'm gonna just keep doing that until I get all of my rolls on my cookie sheet with the parchment paper. The parchment paper is really important. I don't want my rolls to have a really brown bottom. I just want it to be light brown. And when I bake these, I usually just let the top be a little light brown. I don't want them dry. So now that's my first little row of my crescent rolls for this cookie sheet. They're not perfect, but they look pretty darn good. I'm kind of excited about it. Okay, well, I'm going to keep on making these. I might show you one more for the rolling out part here. So we're gonna kind of rub our counter with the flour to make sure it's good and dry. Add some more of that flour, plenty of it. And we're gonna come over here to our big bowl. Use our big spoon to help get out the next amount of the dough. And if your dough has started to stick together, just take your knife or your spoon and pry it loose. Like I said, I have eyeballed it and tried to make them the same sizes, but you know, it's not gonna be perfect. All right, so I'm making kind of a ball and I'm gently mushing it together so, you know, to close in those lines and things to make the ball, but don't manhandle it or anything. You just want it to be a gentle touching. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, get that on there. Okay, I'm gonna plop it down a little. I always like to take my hands and flatten out the disc a little bit so that you're getting more of a round look. I don't want to waste any of my crescent roll dough, so I try to get it the right shapes so I don't have to. Now I'm going to put I've got it kind of flattened out with my hands. I'm going to start the rolling process. And so I do have one of these nice heavy rolling pins. When I was working at my clients that I take care of and cook for and things like that, she had one of these heavy rolling pins and I was like, wow. So I really liked it. All I had was a wooden one that I'd had for years. Now, of course, I had to get one. So I went on Amazon and I ordered it. You see, I'm getting this as much even as I can all the way around. Don't want any side to be any thicker than the other if you can help it. Very gentle. There we go. Now, that may not look big enough to you, but I'm feeling like it is. Keeping in mind that it will kind of shrink back a little bit too. So then I'll take my fingers and kind of round it out a little bit to make it more perfect. So I use this rolling pin also to beat my meat, like your chicken and that type of thing. I like to tenderize it with that rolling pin. And so, you know, I'm gonna just actually dribble a little bit of this on there and then I'll spread it around. You can do it however you're comfortable. But again, I'm trying not to get too much, but it does, that flour sort of soaks it up. So I'll get some more of that butter. These are called Butterhorn rolls. Now I am thinking this recipe was in a cookbook at the Mulberry maybe the Methodist church, but I'm not sure because I think Brenda had that cookbook and that's where she got the recipe. The ladies at the Mulberry Methodist Church, they used to have like a bake sale where they would sell noodles and rolls and cookies. Okay, here we go. I'm eyeballing it, going straight across. I'm cutting it like a pie shapes. And again, you want everybody to get a nice piece of pie. You don't want to cheat anybody, so you're trying to get your rolls about the same size. You just want to make sure you're cutting all the way through. Now we're going to take each roll, roll it from the big side to the pointed end. It's got some little butter on there. They're kind of thick, which I like. These are gonna be pretty nice. I'm very excited. The last time I tried to make these rolls, my yeast was old and it did not rise, so I didn't get to make it for you. And I just kind of threw in the towel that day and said, well, you know, because you gotta let it sit overnight. So that day, instead, I made biscuits. You probably all see my biscuit recipe on here. That was why I made the biscuits, because my rolls did not rise like they were supposed to overnight. And I needed some good bread, so see how that didn't cut through? Just pulled it off. Kind of shape it, try to get it, you know, about the same. Some of them might be a little longer than the others, but as long as you don't roll them out too big, you'll be able to disguise that. It'll be fine. Okay, I'm about to roll up my last one on this little piece of my dough. I'm gonna have it done here, and I'll get my cookie sheet. Okay, so here's the cookie sheet. And I'm gonna add these to my other side, starting in the back, facing that way with a little bit of a curve to it. Give it that. To give it that little curve. Okay, right there. And then I'm gonna do this one. Put it up there kind of close, making sure that this little area gets tucked in where it doesn't, sometimes it'll come up. So you wanna get it underneath there real good. Makes it look prettier, and it makes it work better. So that's what I would do. Curving it, see how I'm making them all about the same direction here, trying to. It'll just look prettier. And your first time, it's not gonna go perfect. And see, this one's a little bit thicker than this one because you gotta use the same pressure pretty much. Okay, so here it is. I need one more row of my rolls on here, and I'll do that next. And I'll come back a little later and we'll discuss more about these rolls. Okay, this is my first sheet of the rolls. I've tried to get them as uniform as I could. I see one here I need to move around a little so that little thing doesn't come up and stick up when it rises. I'm gonna put these over on my warm stove and cover it with a clean dish towel. And I'm gonna not put any melted butter on them this time because, like I said, my brother's not big on butter, but when they come out of the oven, I might put just a light coating of melted butter over the rolls. Okay, I have to do about 3 more trays of these. So I'm still working on my dough and cutting out my crescent rolls and shaping them. I wanted to show you, you could take your dough and kind of do this thing where you kind of fold the underneath side underneath to stretch it just a little. Don't play with it too much. Kind of smooth it out. And that way, when you're ready to put it on your counter and start smashing it out, the hope is it'll be a little more rounded. You won't have to like trim anything off because it'll be pretty round. I'm not sure if this one's gonna be just perfect, but we're getting it. We're working on it anyway. So that I'm taking my hands and I'm just kind of manipulating the edges to try to get them in a rounded type of a design here. All right, I'm gonna continue to get these going. Another thing to show you is, one of the reasons I don't melt all my butter at once, it gets like this, it starts getting real thick. I just need to loosen it up. I'll put it back in the microwave for just a very few seconds. Okay, folks, I'm on my last little ball of dough to make the crescent rolls, and I have them all rolled out pretty much, except for this one. And I thought I'd just recap what I'm doing. I took my dough and kind of folded it under itself to make a nice circle. And then I'm gonna take my hands and I put a little extra flour on them, and I'm gonna flatten it out so that I'm getting it kind of rounded all the way around the edges. That's the way I kind of like to do it. Then I have my floured rolling pin. I'm gonna roll it on each area. I'm not gonna go just one way. I'm kind of going back and forth from the inside out to get it flattened out a bit. Remembering not to make it too flat. I don't want my rolls to be too thin and big and long so that they just look like, I don't know, a banana almost. So it's kind of elastic here, so it's kind of wanting to go back in. So I'm giving it a little bit of a good push. But then when I get it all where I want it, I'll use my hands to kind of guide the dough where I want it. Okay, so here we go. I'm using my fingers, trying to make sure that all the way around the edges, it's about the same thickness. And it's kind of round. I want it to be round. I'm gonna need to get a little bit more butter because I did run out. So I'm gonna melt up just a tiny bit more butter. Okay, my butter is there. I have it lightly melted and I'm spreading it around my crescent roll dough. And this is, like I said, it's my last one. It does kind of wear you out after standing here for an hour and 20 minutes or so to get these all rolled out. So if you're going to start making these, keep that in mind. If you have a big family, they're going to expect a lot of rolls. Okay, halfway. Then again, in the middle, to the best of your ability. Try to make the rolls all the same. Go from corner to the middle through the corner there, back to the middle. Those look pretty close. Then I'm just going to take them here and I'm going to roll them from the big side to the point. I'm going to do them all at the same time until I get them done. Then transfer them over to my cookie sheet on top of the parchment paper. Cover them with a towel on top of a warm surface for 3 to 4 hours. You'll be able to tell when you think they've risen enough. And it depends on the temperature of your kitchen. If there's no place warm for them to rise, they're probably going to take longer. What I might do is, it looks like they're not rising, I'll turn that oven on again and let the top of the oven get a little warm. Just kind of helps it along. If you have a fireplace, take it in and set it in front of your fireplace for a little bit. But you would want to cover your rolls with the clean dish towel, which I have some in there that I'm going to do that with. But I want to get these all on my cookie sheets, show you how they look, all ready to be rising. Okay, I'll transfer these over and I'll be back. Okay, here we are. I have 3 trays of these homemade crescent rolls ready to rise. I'm going to cover them with my towel. I'm not going to put butter on them right now, but when they come out of the oven, I will put just a light coating of butter on them. And they're going to be beautiful. They're close to the same size. I wouldn't say perfect. And you know, when you make things that are homemade, sometimes they're just not perfect. I think my sister-in-law's are, though. I think she must measure them. I need to ask her about that. Isn't that cheating? Oh, anyway, she does make a beautiful roll. I will be so happy to I've got my oven back on because it had cooled off. I want my oven to be a little warm. And I will move these around since this one's not on top of the oven so that it has a fair chance to rise also. Okay, one of the funny stories I like to tell about these rolls is I try to do something special for my children and grandchildren that I cook. I'm not into buying birthday presents anymore. They're all grown pretty much, except for the babies that are in Zionsville. I still buy them birthday presents because I did for the others. Well, anyway, Ryan, my oldest grandson with Chad, who's now 17, on his last birthday, I said, what would you like me to make you, Ryan? Usually it's brownies, or he likes chocolate and mint, or whatever. He says, Grandma, I want a whole 32 of your crescent rolls just for me so that I can eat them because he likes them that much. So that's what he got. And of course, this is 64 rolls, but he wanted the 32, the one order of rolls. Well, anyway, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I did have something I wanted to say really quick. Give me just a second. I'm not completely done, but I will show you these rolls when they do come out of the oven and they're warm, and I'll probably have to have a taste because they're the best right out of the oven. But I would just like to say to be thankful to God who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. 1 Corinthians 15:57. So keep that in mind today. Say some prayers and thank God for all he's given you. Even if things aren't perfect, sometimes, you know, there's a reason that we have to go through those things. So happy Thanksgiving. Hello, everyone. So I did make my Butterhorn rolls yesterday, or a couple days ago for Thanksgiving. And at the very end, when they were baked, I did take one out and show you how good it was, but I don't know if something happened with the video. But it's too good of a recipe to waste, so I just wanted to tell you. I did take those rolls after they had risen for about 4 hours, and I baked them on 375 for about 8 to 10 minutes, depending on, you know, how hot your oven is. They rise a little bit more when they're in their baking. They turn a little brown, and you don't want them too brown. But anyway, when I brought them out of the oven, they were really delicious. They were light and fluffy, and they were perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and add my video. And I didn't get to show you the ending product, but you did see them as they were on the stove after I had them all rolled out and they were rising. So I hope you'll try these sometime. They were really good, delicious.